If you don't know how to draw, who you gonna call? Trowbro. That's right, everybody. Today we're gonna be looking at Slimer from Ghostbusters because it is October and I was thinking about doing some like scary type drawings. So get your pencils ready and let's get started.
So let's get started then, shall we? Here on my left I've got Slimer, and I went ahead and traced the simple shapes that make up his body. Now I'm going to get rid of Slimer and just look at that beautiful bean-shaped body that makes up Slimer. And I'm going to kind of come over here to the right, and I'm going to measure how tall I'm going to make him. And that's that way, like, if you know, when you start drawing, sometimes if you just start with like a face, you end up running out of room and stuff. So it's really a good idea to kind of lay out how big your drawing's going to be. And then I'm going to start drawing this little bean shape, kind of sticks out over here on the left, comes back around and back to the top. And the nice thing about Slimer is that his body is irregular. It's kind of rolly and lumpy, and so like if you know one of the lumps is out of place, I don't think anybody's going to notice. Now this bean shape is okay, but I feel like his butt kind of sticks out a little bit more. So luckily I'm drawing lightly, and I'm going to go back and redraw it and then erase that line. Alright, that is looking closer to the shape on the left. Next up is the little cross on his head. Remember, you're drawing lightly because we're going to erase this, but this is used to help us make sure that his eyes, his nose, his mouth are in the right proportions, the right angles. Alright, I mean sometimes cartoons, they have characters that have like one eye bigger than the other, but Slimer's eyes are basically the same size. So I got a little cross, and then I put a little mark where the bottom of his chin is because I didn't want to make his mouth too big, even though he does have a very big mouth. Alright, so for his arm, it comes down here. It's kind of like a long rectangle, and at the very end of it I put a little oval for where his palm is, and that allows me to put his fingers like on that little oval for his hand. And each one of his fingers is basically a little sausage shape or hot dog, and then you can kind of notice that each one of them has like a different size. Like his index finger's a little pointier, middle finger's a little longer, a little skinnier, and then his pinky's the tiniest one, and then his thumb's like a little nub. Now, one really important lesson you need to learn while drawing is you gotta be willing to just erase everything. Like sometimes you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever draw it as good. And that is not a good place to be at. You want to be able to be like, yes, I can draw this, so I'm just going to erase everything. So this hand, I'm kind of realizing that there's this little V that goes from his hand to his arm. Like makes a little V from his pinky to his arm. And as I'm drawing his hand over here on the left, I realize, oh wow, that V is not there at all. So I'm just going to erase this hand completely and redraw it because like I drew it so far off I was not really paying attention. So a little redo right here. Draw his little rectangle hand coming down to my little oval, and then once again my little hot dog's coming off. Now his thumb over here, a little weird. It has kind of like a little bend in it. I call it like a hitchhiker's thumb, where it has kind of like a little 90-degree like elbow bump into it. So don't forget that little turn in the hot dog. Now don't forget that if you feel like I'm going too fast for you, stop the video, rewind the video. Alright, take this at your own pace. Okay, now that I got his hand done, I'm going to bring back my picture Slimer and start doing some of those details that I see. So let's go ahead and start with Slimer's eyes. Nice little oval. You'll kind of notice like on the left, like there's a lot of line weight to Slimer. Some of the black lines that make up the outline are thick or thin. Alright, not going to pay too much attention to that right now. I'll wait till the drawing's completely done and then go when I'm like inking it and adding a little bit of pressure. That's when I add the line weight. Now around his eyes, you can kind of see his cheeks have kind of like this bubbly shape, alright? So right underneath his eye, where like it's kind of like a little wrinkle kind of comes up, a little hill, and then on the other side underneath, I'm going to do another little bowl shape, and I'm going to go on the other side for his cheek. I'm going to do this before I do his smile. Kind of gives me a place to put it. So nice round cheeks, and I'll kind of carve out like the top of Slimer's head here in a little bit. I want to focus on some of his facial features first. Then his smile is like a normal smile, a little shallow bowl type shape, kind of just comes down and meets that little grin mark that he has on the right side. And then for his whole mouth, it's kind of like a big U shape. So I'm just going to come down right there from his cheek all the way down and go up. And I'm drawing light because you can kind of see his tongue does kind of stick out. So I'm going to have to erase some of these lines later. So drawing lightly is very important right here. Next, I'm going to go into his mouth, and I think I'm going to start by drawing his teeth, actually. I'm going to draw each one of his teeth first, and then I'll build his gums, that little pink part, around his teeth. So I'm using that little plus sign that I drew. I can kind of see that his third tooth from the left kind of sticks out right there. by that little plus of my T that I drew for Slimer's face, and that'll kind of help me place, all 4 of his teeth. He's got the 3 right there together, and then he's got that little 1 by itself. Then I can come and kind of follow this line, kind of come back up right there where it touches the smile, and then come back around, goes around those 2 teeth, 3 teeth. Yeah, he's got a funny little smile. I think it's one of the things that makes Slimer so endearing, is like this really goofy grin that he has. Now his tongue has a lot of curves, so a lot of hills. I'm just going to kind of come right here, comes down, and you can kind of see this first curve stops before the plus, and then the next part of his tongue, the line goes up and almost, it might actually touch his 2 teeth right there. Then it kind of comes down, and then this little stick out part of his tongue is just like a little lump shape. It comes right there, comes out of his mouth a little bit, and then comes back around for like a very shallow bowl shape when it goes back around. You kind of see it has like this weird shape to it. Very organic. Kind of doing just the best I can, just drawing that bowl shape. And then right underneath the bowl shape, you can see the underneath of his tongue, just a little like curved line going down, and it's right next to that little blue line. It makes that really interesting shape that I'm trying to copy right there. Next up is, I think it would be his jaw. Even though Slimer is just like one big body, he does have like this jaw line. And it's going to come down, curve around, and it goes right to that line that I measured, and then comes back around, kind of around his tongue. And then, what I'm going to do is, like from here, since this line kind of just keeps continuing around his head, I'm going to then just go ahead and make his cheek, and then make it kind of go into his eyebrow right here. From there, I'm going to go ahead and continue into his other eyebrow, which is just kind of like a little curve shape. And it kind of starts right there on the blue line, and then goes past the blue line again, and then comes around. It's got a nice little eyebrow shape right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and start sculpting out his other cheek and his head right here. So it's kind of like a little curved line. And he's got a little noggin. Kind of reminds me of remember in Looney Tunes when or Tom and Jerry when somebody gets bonked on the head and then a little head. Like a little bump would raise. It kind of reminds me of that. Alright, now I'm going to come down here and do, I think it's his first chin. It looks like Slimer, I think he's got 3 chins. Maybe his whole body is just a bunch of chins, and I think that's part of his appeal right here. I'm going to come over here to right out of his jaw, a little curved line, which meets where his hand is, and then you can kind of see the right side of his head still. Kind of right there from his hand, it kind of goes up to his cheek. So I'm just going to draw that line. Next up, I'm going to come down here and finish off, I guess, what would be his second chin. Kind of bulges on the right, kind of gets a little lumpy and a little smaller as it goes towards his other hand over here. After his second chin, I'm going to come down here and draw his third chin, which kind of goes into his arm right here. Now, for his arm, even though I kind of drew it straight, he's got some interesting little curves right there. He almost has like an elbow, it looks like. So the line kind of curves there on the bottom one, and then on the top one, it has kind of like that little hill. It's like a big hill, then it droops down, and then has that little one. I think it's actually, it might be easier for me to draw the little hill first into the little bump, and then the bigger hill. Now I'm going to go over his hand and kind of push down a little bit harder on the lines that I want to keep. His hand is just like one big outline, just from his thumb all the way around. So I'm just going to kind of go and darken just the lines that I want to keep. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to get rid of the blue outline, and I think this is mostly done. So I'm going to go and actually start pushing down a little bit harder, just 100%. So if you want to right now, I think it'd be a good idea to get like a Sharpie out, or maybe a black crayon, a black colored pencil, and kind of go over it. Now if you're coloring it, like his green and stuff, then I probably would color the green first. I always do black last, but for me, since I'm just using a pencil, I'm going to push down a little bit harder and go over all the lines that I want to keep. I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch the whole thing. I am not happy with this hand over here. I just feel like it still looks a little off, so I'm going to try to fix this arm a little bit more. I'm going to just press down harder where I think the lines should be at, and then when I'm done, I'll erase all the unwanted lines. So I'm going to just try to fix this little area over here, and I think it'll look better for it in the end, because I just don't feel like his hand is long over here as opposed to the actual picture on the left. So I'm going to fix his hand right here. Alright, now that is looking way better. I like it just 100% more. Make sure you're not getting married to your artwork. Just be willing to like throw things away, erase things, because you can always draw it again. I know sometimes after you spend some time with something, you're like, oh, I can't give up on it, but you'll be a lot happier in the end. All right, if you just like push through. All right, hit the redo button. So I'm gonna finish speeding this up, and then my favorite part, erasing. Let's get my eraser out, and I'm gonna go around and clean up this drawing, and you're gonna start to see Slimer come alive. Once again, I'm gonna speed this up, little time lapse, so you can kind of see what he looks like all finished. And I really like it when I go and I fix his arm over there, because there's so many crazy lines going everywhere, and after I clean it up, it'll look, I think, pretty good. And I hope you had fun drawing Slimer. Make sure you keep practicing, don't give up.
Well, kiddos, I hope you had fun drawing Slimer. Make sure that you keep practicing, don't give up, and I will see you next time on Drawing with Trowbro.